My dear friends, today we celebrate the second Sunday in Ordinary Time Year C. The readings today highlight God's immense love for us through the theme of the marriage covenant. The first reading, taken from the prophet Isaiah, is set historically in the post-exilic period of Judah when the people experienced the loss of self-rule and the continued absence of physical and symbolic stability, thus suggesting the absence of God. Within that situation, the prophet Isaiah expresses the pain of the people. He not only gives voice to lamentation, but also speaks with persistence, even defiance. He will speak up and continue to speak, refusing to rest. Isaiah assumes that God will listen if he does not give up. He then speaks on behalf of God back to the people. The promises begin with the assurance of Judah's vindication and salvation and the growth of its influence in the future. The mention of a new name indicates a change in status. The images like crown of beauty and a royal diadem suggest how valuable Judah will be to God. God will delight in Judah. No longer will the people feel abandoned or forsaken. In the latter part of the text, we see a mention of the marriage motive. Israel had committed adultery with multiple lovers, that is, foreign gods, for generations. In deep sorrow and long simmering anger, God had finally sent his beloved bride away into exile, in hopes that she would realize the error of her ways and return to her beloved. There, Israel sat in Babylon, a deserted wife, a desolate woman. After the joy of Christmas and the New Year have faded, we notice that life hasn't really changed much. There is a gap between what Advent and Christmas promise and the reality we encounter in our lives. A gap between expectation and reality. And it is at these moments that we are called to trust in the Lord even when things look hopeless and blurry. Over and over again, God speaks of a reversal of fortune, the renewal of lives, the restoration of our broken relationship with God. We may feel far away from God right now, but God promises to bring us back, to renew our wedding vows, to make us as glorious as He has always intended. God rejoices over us the way a bridegroom rejoices over his bride. In the second reading taken from St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, we read about the diversity in spiritual gifts. The Corinthian church was a vibrant community where members received varieties of gifts from the Spirit. But at the same time, they did not have a clear understanding about spiritual gifts. Many of them were in rivalry with the other members, and some claimed that they were better than the others because of their special spiritual gifts. The problem is they did not ask what they could do for the common good or what the Spirit wanted them to do. This is the context in which Paul responds to the issue of spiritual gifts in today's reading. Paul explains that the Spirit is inseparable from God. He emphasizes both gifts and their origin, which is the Spirit. While there are many gifts, there is the same Spirit. The Spirit does not give only one kind of gift to all. The implication is that members have to recognize other kinds of gifts and cooperate with one another. Also, while listing the various gifts of the Spirit, Paul places seemingly popular gifts later in the list, such as various kinds of tongues and the interpretation of tongues. What comes early in the list is wisdom and knowledge. He also mentions that there are varieties of services and activities. All works and ministry in the church are part of diaconia, which means service or ministry. Whoever does the work of the Spirit or whatever is done in the church must reflect the work of Jesus, who is the foundation of the church. His faithful life serving the weak and oppressed should be a constant reminder to all who work in the name of the Lord. All deeds, personal or communal, must be informed and activated by the same God. This means that members have to test their deeds or works to see whether their works are based on God. Paul makes explicit the purpose of the gifts of the Spirit, which is for the common good, which means gifts are not to be used for self promotion or selfish reasons. Rather, they must be used for strengthening the community by taking care of the weak and the despised in society. The Spirit also chooses which gift to bestow on each and knows what gift is needed for each. Members do not receive gifts of the Spirit as they wish. The Spirit does not give one kind of gift to all members either. The purpose of different gifts of the Spirit is to make the church stronger and useful to more people. We are reminded that in the end, the gifts, the ministry, and the empowering of the community for service all belong to God. In the Gospel taken from John, we read the narrative of the wedding at Cana. Since the Gospel of John is quite different from the Synoptic Gospels, along with the traditional ways of interpreting the text, we must also look at the symbolism and the spiritual meaning involved. The marriage motive, as we have seen in the first reading, is continued in the Gospel. The passage speaks about a wedding feast, but slowly the perspective widens towards a broader understanding which situates this passage in the context of a marriage between God and his people. This marriage, already begun in the Old Testament, that is the people of Israel, is now brought to completion in the New Covenant. However, in the Gospel of John, the true bridegroom of Israel, that is Jesus, manifests his glory as a guest at a wedding in Cana. The responsibility to provide the wine lay on the part of the bridegroom, and it is indeed Jesus who is the provider of the wine as the real but hidden bridegroom of the story. In the Old Testament, wine was considered as a blessing and gift, and also was associated with feasting. Wine in abundance, along with oil or milk, was a sign of the age of salvation. The main thrust of John lies in the messianic and Christological self revelation of Jesus. At the miracle of Cana, as at the other signs and works, it is his origin from God and his union with the Father that must be believed and recognized. The hour of Jesus commonly denotes his death and glorification. The purpose of this first Cana sign and all the signs that reveal Jesus' glory is to bring his disciples to faith. As the couple at Cana experienced quite often in our lives too, wine runs out. Not literally, of course, but spiritually. What do we do when the happiness in our life runs out? What do we do when we are engulfed with sadness and pain? We are encouraged to turn to Mary as she sees our pain and understands us as a mother understands her child. And Mary will always take us to her son Jesus. And Jesus always provides us with the best quality wine. The best was saved until the last at the wedding. What God provides for us is the best. And God bless us all.